Great Scott! They just made this a musical! Let's Chicle Chat about it.
Chicle?
Welcome to Chicle Chat, it's your boy Chicle, and we are back at it again with another Broadway review video. And in today's video, we are going to be doing a Broadway review video on Back to the Future, the new musical. This is one of the musicals that you guys have been asking me the most to review, and I'm really excited to share what I thought about the movie musical. Now, before we do, please be sure to subscribe, hit the bell, and if you saw it on Broadway, let me know in the comments below, what did you think about this musical? So let's hop back onto the DeLorean, go back to 1985, and without further ado, let's go! This new musical adventure, based on the 1985 blockbuster and pop culture phenomenon, is brought to the stage by movie co-writers Bob Gale and Robert Zemeckis. Marty McFly is a rock and roll teenager who accidentally transported back to 1955 in a time-traveling DeLorean invented by his friend Dr. Emmett Brown. But before he can return to 1985, Marty must make sure his high school-aged parents fall in love in order to save his own existence. The book is written by Bob Gale, and music and lyrics are written by Alan Silvertree and Glenn Ballard. This musical recently opened early this August. Since time traveling doesn't exist, as far as I'm aware, you better want to get your tickets now. Oh, and you need to see the movie first before you see this musical. And if you don't, what the heck is wrong with you? The first thing I want to talk about during this review is the presentation. And this is before the show. You notice that next door at the Winter Garden Theater, there is a little shop and it says The Store. It's its own little shopping area so you can get some merchandise before going into the theater. In a way, it felt like you're walking into a comic store. You're getting some t-shirts, had some references like Save the Clock Bell, and like little figurines of like Dr. Brown and stuff. I didn't get to go in personally, but I have peeked through the window and I'm like, wow, this is really interesting. And yes, when you go to the theater, there are obviously some more merchandise counters where you can be able to buy stuff. But yeah, I just wanted to mention about that. Walking into the theater while being ushered to your seat, you can tell that you're on a Disneyland ride, because you know how you're like Tomorrowland or something and you have all the like techno stuff going on. It's what it kind of reminds me of. You could tell that this is supposed to be a theatrical phenomenon. They also have like this screen on the curtain and it's projected and it has like the countdown for when it starts. And then you also have all this techno stuff going on. It was really, really cool. And then the orchestration just starts as the show begins and you are in for a ride. And then the opening with Marty McFly's appearances, the audience goes crazy. The point where Doc Brown comes in, the audience goes crazy. Characters like George McFly and Biff, everybody goes crazy. The DeLorean, when it enters on stage, the crowd goes crazy. And the scene where Marty McFly skateboards to the mall to meet up with Doc Brown, and there's like this sign that just slowly comes up that says like Twin Hill Mall or whatever, the crowd goes crazy. It's because everybody knows who Marty McFly is. You can tell that people know about this movie that's being adapted to the musical, so they understand the references. So the reason why this show was getting a lot of praise is because of the audience's energy, because there's a lot of things that they memorize from the movie. Like, that's the character they memorized, that's a prop that they memorized, this is a setting that they memorized, this is a reference that they memorize. It's something that people are familiar with. I want to talk about the music because there are multiple genres of types of music that were presented in this musical, but in general, it's a rock musical. So because it works out to traveling through time, you have 80s rock and you have 50s rock. And then of course you also have some of that techno music for the 21st century. Or is it like just 80s, 90s techno stuff? And then of course they do apply the orchestrations of the epic moments of the DeLorean when it goes da 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 da. It was amazing. I thought the music was what really carried the show, and the multiple genres of the musical, mainly rock, definitely just highlighted Back to the Future, arguably as a rock musical. Now, I do want to mention about the lighting and the sound. If you guys are sensitive about strobe lights or any loud big bangs and booms, this may not be the musical for you if you're very sensitive and you might get nauseous, because when I say that it's loud, my God, it is loud. And there are some strobe lights. The lighting is really crazy. I think it's amazing, but just for viewer perspective, if you are sensitive to strobe lights, I would not recommend seeing this show just to prevent yourself from getting a seizure or throwing up or whatever. I would change one minor thing. I think they should try to make it a little bit quieter, or at least more noticeable that something is about to come up. I noticed that they had a notice about that kind of stuff, but it's just on a small screen, and I wish they could have made it more noticeable, or at least before they had a thing where you just go like, hey, make sure your phones are turned off and it'll ruin the time-space continuum or something. They should have mentioned about that the show does contain some sensitive lighting and noises, so I wish that that could have been more addressed. Now, of course, we can't talk about Back to the Future without talking about some of the familiar characters in the cast. Starting off with the DeLorean as DeLorean. Probably the best paid actor. I'm just kidding. Let's talk about Marty McFly. Marty McFly has been played by Casey Likes. He entered the stage like a rock star. He is definitely that rock star type. He is the protagonist, the main character that you've been rooting for since the beginning of the show. I understand that he's like young, but you know, he does things for a reason and stuff, and he's trying to fix some mistakes and stuff along the way for the future, for his family and stuff. He's just a really great person to root for in this musical. Now, I have a question for you. What does Doc Brown look like on a musical theater stage on Broadway? Roger Bart is definitely the answer. You know how like Aladdin, there's the genie that steals the show? You know in Book of Mormon, Elder Cunningham steals the show? You know how like in Back to the Future, Marty McFly is the main character? Doc Brown literally steals the show? Yeah, Doc Brown stole the show. His comedic timing, his 2020 references. Oh yeah, there's some 2020 jokes in this show. I'm not gonna tell you what they are, but 2020's been mentioned. That's all I can say. But he was just enjoyable to just watch in general. It's like, there was never a moment that he was dull at all. Like, he was just doing his own thing. I just really love Doc Brown in this musical. And oh my gosh, I just have to just say this broadly. He was just one of my favorite characters in this musical. The second best, in my opinion, would have to be Hugh Cole's play, George McFly. That is Marty McFly's dad. He's like not the cool guy. He has this voice and body language, and he's... Let me know in the comments below if that was a good impression, because I don't think that was a good impression at all. George McFly is so funny, especially in the 50s as his younger self. Oh my gosh, I just thought it was so hilarious. I enjoyed watching him. It was, his body language is what made the whole thing so much funnier. Then we have Linda McFly, played by Amber Ardolino. Ardolino? I don't have my glasses on. So she plays the mother in the musical. She's the one that falls in love with her son, Marty McFly, when he goes back to time. And Marty's just trying to get George and Linda back together so that he could save his own existence. I thought that she was amazing. I didn't think that she was going to surprise me here and there. I'm not going to tell you the moments, but I thought Linda's character was awesome. Biff Tannen, played by Nathaniel Hackman. He was the funny antagonist in the musical. He was a lot funnier as a teenager. Obviously, we've seen the majority of that. He's the jerk that bullies Marty McFly's dad a lot, you know? And then you just go back to time and you can see that he still bullies his dad. He's like the big bad boy in the musical and stuff. He's just trying to take the girl away from Marty / George. Mainly George, but you know what I mean. And I like how he has his hooligans with him in that one number. What was that called again? I had to find it. Oh, it's down over here. It's Teach Him a Lesson with 3D and Slick. I want to mention about Goldie Wilson, played by Jelani Remy. Oh my gosh, the musical number at the diner, it's called Gotta Start Somewhere. Probably one of the best numbers in the entire first act, in my opinion. And it's from a side character. If you don't know who Goldie Wilson is, you need to see the movie first. But yeah, all I have to say is that he definitely got the audience clapping, and you know, his number was a fantastic routine. Well, there are some more characters to talk about, but those were some of the main ones in the show. Overall, I think Doc Brown and George McFly definitely stole the show with comedic timing and stuff. And Marty McFly was a really great protagonist in this musical. I thought Goldie Wilson's number, Gotta Start Somewhere, was really great. They continue bringing on the motto of anything is possible if you put your mind to it. And now some of the biggest concerns about this musical is the DeLorean itself. The DeLorean is the car that goes 88 miles per hour to travel back to time. But the question is, did the technical issues worked out? Because I heard that people said that this had technical issues with the car being stuck or whatever. When I saw it, because it was on Friday, August 18th of 2023, the car had no problems at all. It just flew on stage, it drove on stage, it did a lot of crazy stuff. And I'm not gonna go in specifics. You have to buy a ticket to see this yourself. I think that they put in a really, really huge budget on a musical like this because it's supposed to be like a main attraction. You know, people love Back to the Future, like the actual movie. And so they wanted to see if this musical can work out. And I think from me, I really like this musical a lot. I think personally it is as good, believe it or not, as the Beetlejuice musical. Oh yeah. I'm saying it right there. But you never know. Some performances are kind of different. And I would say that technically it was a really great performance. I loved it a lot. My overall thought is that just be aware that there are some lighting and some sounds that can be very sensitive to a few, and just be ready for some of the 2020 references in the musical. I give this a 10 out of 10. I thought this was really fun to watch, and I had a great time. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm actually gonna jump back into the DeLorean back in August 18th of 2023 to see this show all over again, because it was amazing. And maybe I might come back with 2 playbills. Ooh, great Scott. Yeah, I definitely saw the musical again. Same thing like I said in the review, September 8th of 2023. Yeah, so anyway, that's all the time that we have for today's video. We are gonna see you next time. Peace